have necessarily got. But certainly if you want to see a map of, for example, where the poorhouse was and some pictures, and it will tell you when the building is still extant or whether it's been demolished and when it was demolished. So it's a very good website.
Because you do get this picture in your head when you see the word poorhouse and workhouse, and it does give you this picture of a very Dickens, life of servitude.
Yeah, but as I say, in Scotland, what was known as outdoor relief, in other words, giving funds to people so they stayed in their own houses, was far more common. And particularly as the century went on, and even this happened, the workhouse system or the English system was really aimed really much at the south of England. The further north you get, the more attitude was, oh, we're not going to shove people. So, for example, if you look at Inverness-shire, that's a huge geographical. You weren't necessarily going to take somebody from Kyle Cal and take them all over to the combination workhouse in Yorkshire. The parochial board would have the funds, it would administer. Now, what you tend to find is that as the century goes on, in effect, poorhouses become, in effect, care homes, old age pensioners, maternity hospitals. Not necessarily asylums, although you could have people who had older people who had upwards help them, but the parochial board would, for example, if somebody becomes insane, they would pay for the person's treatment at, for example, the Highland Asylum in Inverness. Now, my great-grandmother's sister, I didn't know this, but if I look at the poor law records of the parish of Array in Rossshire, I was looking through them, and I'm thinking, oh, hang on, I recognise that name. Because it said Catherine Finlayson, daughter of John Finlayson. And what happened was she went temporarily insane. She was jumping out the windows, shouting at her mother, and so on. And the parish, in effect, paid for her to go to the Highland Asylum until she is cured. Now, of course, that leaves you on to medical records, which are a whole completely different ball of game. So the parishes could pay what most of us are probably familiar with poor law records, and particularly when we think of Glasgow, I think everybody possibly familiar. Jeremy Paxman having an absolute fit, I think, on who do you think you are, when he's breaking down in tears when he found that one of his relatives had basically been refused poor relief because having illegitimate children and so on. And this was in Glasgow. Now, it's well known in Scotland that Glasgow, in particular, Lanarkshire poor law records are absolutely brilliant, very good, very high survival rate, and they're in the Mitchell Library in Glasgow. There's not an online index, unfortunately. You have to go to the Mitchell Library in Glasgow. And that's important to say that there's not a 100% survival rate for these records. Edinburgh's terrible compared with Glasgow. So it very much, it's a case of looking at the local archives records and seeing what's in the archives. As I say, Glasgow, there's some North Lanarkshire ones on Ancestry. My own society, the Scottish Genealogy Society, we've got an author who lives in Nairn, Stuart Farrell, who's published a lot of books with the poor law registers for a lot of the parishes in Rossshire and other bits of Scotland. Rossshire, Southern, Caithness, we've got a lot of those published through the SGA. So have a look at our online, at the Society shop if you've got. Murray and Nairn Family History Society also published books. For example, they've recently published the poor law register for Mortlack, and that's where I found my two times great grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And now, why would you? Now, one of the things the parish was determined, and these are by these records, so can be useful in our family history, is that they don't just mention the person who's getting poor relief. They'll mention other family members. So, for example, with my relative, the one in Avalon, my great grandmother, it mentions her son John. It mentions William, who's married, and it mentions Alexander, who's a soldier. So, and it mentions a daughter, and it's Anne, and it says her married name. Now, with my other side of my mum's family, with the Finlaysons up in Urry, the poor law application books again have similar information. In this case, my ancestors were refused poor relief because she was living with her son, who was a farm grieve. But it says how many, it doesn't name his children, but it numbers how many children her son has got. It says her daughter's in Australia with 8 children. And my ancestor, Donald, another son, he's got 6 of her children, and it gives his occupation. So these poor law records can be absolutely brilliant for your family history, because they're quite often you'll figure out, oh, hang on, where's the husband? He's not mentioned, he may have died. And sometimes the poor law record, and because what happened was, if you move to another parish, say you moved from Aberlour to Aberdeen, Aberlour would still have to pay money to the Aberdeen parish, because that's where you came from. And it could be through your birth or because you lived there a resident. So if you went on to, so that, for example, with William McPherson, son of the one, my tutor great grandmother, he's in and out of various hospital poorhouses in the northeast. He's a tramp. He's described as a tramp, but it tells you why he was ill. It was an illness in his knee joint, in the abdomen, and it gives his date of death. So we know all these poorhouses and so on that he's moved around. So it's giving, I mean, a real detailed picture of your family, which other records won't. And this is, I was looking recently at one that I got from Glasgow, that somebody in the society gave to one of my more distant relatives. And there's an argument about whether giving her more money because she's extravagant in the ways in which she spends money. So, there's some pointing fingers. We're not giving you poor relief to go out and abuse it. It should be for essential purposes.
These days, it's not like you've got John Lewis to go out to, and
Yes, I mean, I think a lot of it was concerned was, and you would certainly find this, that anyone who was addicted to drink would definitely not be seen as deserving.
Right.
Particularly as in the 19th century goes on in Scotland, and we do have the very temperance movement, and a lot of the people administering are evangelical Christians, i.e., and the Victorian attitude of self-help, you should pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Now, if you can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps through health circumstances, we'll support you. But if we're giving you money and you're going to go out in a swally on a Friday night, well, you shouldn't be getting any money. Much as, even in the 20th century, we see that with people saying, well, I'm not giving it to the beggars in Princess Street because they're going to go and buy drugs or drink with it, or there's a fear. So this attitude towards what we're seen as the deserving poor and the undeserving poor is not new.
And you could argue that attitude has continued, if you like, to this day.
It is very much so. The feeling that, and particularly in the 19th century, there was a feeling that with Samuel Smiles and self-help, and very much you can pull yourself. You haven't got any excuse.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to get out of the situation. If you work hard and study, you will get yourself out of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think nowadays we are a bit more realistic, and obviously at the moment the government's busy throwing money, and because it realises that irrespective, there's nothing we can do as individuals. So they've got to give us support in some way or other.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is. But these would so have a look at the archive. Just even if you stick your relative's name in,
See if it
because it's to say they could be poor for a temporary period. But don't just look at, for example, if I look at the Irish Poor Register, which the SGS has published 1865 to 1918, I mean, you've got minute books, you've got a record of applications, and as I say, do look at where they survive, the record of applications, because that might be people who applied for poor relief, like my ancestor and Mary, but don't get it because their children are working. Because children were there, much as the Chinese attitude is, China, as you know, with China, that children should support their parents.
Mm-hmm.
This was the attitude in the 19th century. That, you know, and particularly almost, you could say it happened out with poor families that have married daughters. Well, why do you have daughters? Well, you have daughters to look after mum and dad when they're old.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't go off and get married. You should be there to support your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite often why you might find that if you look at big families, you'll find that there is an unmarried child, because that unmarried child would have been told, you're there to look after me or support me when I supported you when you were young, therefore you're going to support me.
Mm-hmm.
So to an extent that carried on, that if the families of income, the parochial boards are going to stand around and go, no, we're not giving any money because the family's got money.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Ken, I really like what you were saying there, because I very much get the sense that our Scottish ancestors looked after our Scottish ancestors.
Oh yes, I mean, obviously, poorhouses existed, but you would find that you get granny parents and the grandchildren quite often staying in the same house.
Mm-hmm.
You get the extended family,
mm-hmm.
or they're staying next door,
mm-hmm.
or, I mean, that's why I always say in the census, don't just look at the census entry for your particular family. Mm-hmm. Look at the other names, or even go where you can, particularly on the commercial. If you can go forward or backwards, you mm-hmm. might find that you've got extended family groups, and it was very much a support mechanism, mm-hmm. Which doesn't exist nowadays. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one out of my family lives in Edinburgh, sister in Aberdeen, mum mm-hmm. up in the Highlands, my brother down in Leeds. So, whereas in the past, a lot of families would have stayed in the same area. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the reasons we could argue that my ancestor living in Aberlour gets full relief is her family have all moved away. Mm-hmm. None of them are staying in staying in Mortlach. The family have moved away. She's got no support mechanism. Mm-hmm. Therefore, she has to be given money initially by the parochial and then by the Lord Feeding Fund and then mm-hmm. people work. So it's a different set of records. It's not one that's more. you're necessarily going to be familiar working with, but they are an incredibly